Buying the wrong type of home can cost you thousands, or worse, make you miserable. Condos and single-family homes offer completely different lifestyles, and choosing the wrong one can mean hidden fees, unexpected maintenance, or feeling trapped in the place that doesn't fit your life. So before you commit to a mortgage, let's break down the real pros and cons so you don't end up regretting your choice. All right, so today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of condos versus single-family homes. And because affordability has become such an issue in our market here in Northern Nevada, even though our average home price is pushing kind of towards $600,000 these days, you still can find all sorts of properties at a much lower price. For example, we're selling a condo right now for $215,000. So as usual, when we start talking about buying property, we like to bring Sydney Lessinger on. Many of you guys all know her now. She's our buyer's agent for the Lessinger team. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And so let's start with the pros, and let's start with condos. You know, we have a lot of buyers, especially now because of my age. I'm getting clients in their 20s, clients middle-aged like myself, and we're getting clients much older. And it seems like condos work really well for people, depending on what their lifestyle is. And so what would be some of the best features, the pros of living in a condo?
A lot of the condo complexes that we have, the exterior maintenance of the condo complex, the building itself, is handled by the HOA. The exterior maintenance in terms of your landscaping is already done. A lot of them are gated, so you get extra security. The HOA sometimes will have amenities, so sometimes you'll have a clubhouse, you might have a pool. Not all condo complexes offer that, but a good majority of them do.
And so for condo complexes in different parts of town, like for example, we talk about this one that we're selling right now for $215,000, you can find condos that are literally studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, even 3 bedroom. And there are condo complexes in parts of town that you can spend lots of money. So I don't want you to think just automatically all condos are inexpensive, but people have to pay attention to the benefits of living in a condo. So if you're someone maybe who travels a lot for work, if you're someone that maybe doesn't want to deal with a lot of exterior things or doesn't want to deal with maintenance, it's sort of like kind of the best of both worlds. It kind of feels like you're a renter sometimes because you can have the condo complex manage a lot of your stuff. But then there's other times where it's very restrictive and there's some things that don't necessarily are the greatest benefits of the world. But one of the things that we talk about all the time is the cost. So when someone says, hey, it's a $215,000 condo, or let's get a little more expensive condo so we can compare it more to a house. Let's say a $450,000 condo. It's not just your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for your payment. There are other things that they need to be cautious about. And of course, it's the HOA fee. So it's something that we want to talk about. What do you say about the HOA fees when people are looking?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that go into the HOA fees for condo complexes. A lot of them you'll see anywhere between $300, and we have some condo complexes that are upwards of $900 monthly for your HOA fees.
If someone's in a $900 a month condo fee, I'm assuming they're going to have major amenities, major things. But what I think people understand is if you live somewhere that has a pool, a clubhouse, tennis courts, pickleball courts, a community center, a gym, whatever all the features might be, you can see these also in single family home HOA, especially if we see them in some 55 and over communities. So you can find that stuff in both. But when people are maintaining and the cost involved of all these things, when I talk about the HOA fees, people love to see the low HOA fee. And when I talk about the low HOA fee, we got to get information about the homeowner association, because just because the fees are low, that's great. But we want to make sure they're solvent. We want to make sure that the complex is being maintained, that the roofs don't look old, that the exterior paints are not looking old, that whatever facilities they have are also being maintained, because if not, they're going to get what's called an assessment.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about the cons of living in a condo complex. Assessments are something you could be, but you definitely want to make sure that we're looking at the HOA. And usually if you just drive around a complex, you can tell if it's being maintained well. That's one thing. But then if it isn't, we want to make sure that we're looking at those HOA documents. And what do you say to people when they're asking questions about that?
Yeah, I mean, some of the condo complexes I'm more familiar than others with, so I can sometimes answer those questions right off the jump. But more often than not, we'll pull what's called CC&Rs, which are the kind of rules and regulations that an HOA might have for you.
Right.
And that determines kind of, does that work for you? Because some HOAs have different rules, different regulations. You can park here, but you can't park there.
Right.
It just needs to fit your lifestyle. So you have to make sure that that condo complex kind of aligns with your needs.
Okay, so some other things about condo complexes. Obviously, you're sharing buildings, you're sharing walls, and those kind of things. And what sort of problems, we have a few real life examples for these, what kind of problems can occur in a condo complex that are like things that are out of your control that now you're like, oh shit, what do I do? Let's give a couple real life examples here.
Yeah, we had a client not too long ago that had a leak in the unit above them that was causing damage to the unit below, which our client was part of. And you have to get the HOA involved for a lot of that because they're trying to figure out the source of where the water was coming from, whose responsibility it is, what part of it the HOA will cover, which part of it the homeowners have to cover. And you have to work collectively as a group sometimes.
And it takes way longer than you think it's going to take. So if you're someone who all of a sudden has a leak and you have a hole in your ceiling or a kitchen that no longer works or no hot water or whatever the case may be, it can be a major pain in the tush. Okay, so another thing about condo complexes is this. People a lot of times will buy condos. We get investor clients that want to buy them as rental property. Most condo complexes have some sort of limitations on how many units can be rented out versus how many units have to be owner occupied. And so we had a complex. We had an owner that had 3 units in the same complex, and the HOA wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden they realized, let's say as an example, a 100-unit complex says you can only be 30% renter versus owner. So that means 30 of the 100 units can be renters. And how do they figure that out? It's based upon some of their loans, some of their other things. And so when this client went to try to renew their leases, or everyone that had a rental got notices saying, when your renters move out, you're not gonna be able to re-rent these properties. You're gonna have to sell them. And what does that do to the resale value in these complexes?
Makes them not great.
Because typically a lot of times there are people that are buying them as investment properties, especially if you're closer to workplaces, a university, and some of those kind of things. And so you just have to kind of know what the rules are in these condo complexes. They are definitely much more restrictive. And the other thing that people forget sometimes is they can also be restrictive on the inside of your units.
Yes.
So for example, there was a condo complex in South Reno that we had a unit, someone wanted to buy an upstairs unit. And one of the stipulations in our offer was they wanted to be able to put in hardwood floors. And the HOA did not allow hardwood floors in an upstairs unit because they said it was too loud for the people down below. So you'll see weird stuff like that come up once in a while. Obviously, if they could buy a downstairs unit, great. A lot of times, obviously, in these 2-story and potentially 3-story buildings, you're on slabs and concrete, and sometimes putting in tile or hardwood floor, even on a floor unit, is difficult because they might not be perfectly level and those kind of things. So lots of pros and cons to doing condos. Now, if you're someone who's thinking about moving to Northern Nevada, do me a favor. Click the link in the description below. We'll send you a free copy of our buyer's guide that'll give you a lot of the information and the paperwork you need to get started on your journey to Northern Nevada. Let's compare this to single-family homes. The pros and cons of a single-family home would be?
Some of your pros would be you get a little bit more privacy. I mean, obviously, depending on where your home is, you will have neighbors, but you're not sharing a wall with anybody. Your maintenance is your maintenance, which could potentially be a drawback for some. You have your own yard. You have more space. You have a bigger place to live, even on the inside, but everything is your responsibility at a home.
And you can basically decorate the insides, do whatever you want as far as those goes. Now, again, a lot of homes are in homeowner associations. I live in a homeowner association. We just have basic rules and regulations and maintenance. It is also possible, way less likely, happens way less, that a neighbor's house could damage yours. If you live on a slope or on a hill and someone floods or there's problem, could your house get damaged? Sure, but the stories that we hear happen 95 out of 100 are going to be on a condo versus on a single family home. So the other nice part about single family homes, especially if you don't live in a homeowner association, is that you can do whatever the hell you want. Paint whatever colors you want, landscape or whatever you want. And so we'll get buyer clients that are very much, hey, I want to be in a homeowner association, which is one that I don't. And every condo complex, 100% of the time, is always in an HOA.
Yes.
So if you're someone who does not want a HOA, you can't really even be in a condo complex. The single family home thing is for you. Now, the cost, the cons, everything on a single family home, like you just briefly mentioned, is your house payment is kind of like your minimum.
Yes.
You're going to be able to have to deal with potentially, especially if you buy an older house, remodeling, maintenance costs, roofs, water heaters, systems of your house. Things like that are 100% your responsibility, where, like I said, in the condo complex, a lot of times the exteriors and all those things kind of are not. So when you have clients, they're looking here and they're trying to weigh the pros and cons, what are some of these questions that you might see or get from people that are really trying to decide, one, is it HOA or not HOA, or is it really more just condo versus single family home?
Condo versus single family, especially because a lot of the homes that we have here in Reno are in a homeowners association of some kind, whether it be minimal or not. It's important to figure out what people's lifestyles are. Like you had mentioned earlier, saying, do you travel a lot? Are you looking for more security? Because potentially having a condo is better. You're inside of a gate. You have neighbors that literally share walls with you. Right. So you feel like your property's more protected. Or are you a homebody? Do you work from home? Do you need the space? Are you raising children? Do you need a yard? Do you have a dog? Just kind of overall, what potentially will fit your lifestyle better.
And is it usually coming up more of a price point thing, or because we can find condos in higher price points too. So I guess in those you're having more conversations, but for some people I imagine if they can only spend $150,000 to $250,000, they don't have a lot of options besides a condo.
Yeah, and it does happen that way sometimes, that the affordability of condos is interesting to people. However, just because your condo is affordable doesn't mean that your monthly payment will be, depending on your HOA. Is there a special assessment coming up? Things of that nature that are fees outside of what you would typically see in a single family residence.
So with that being said, let's go a slight different direction. We, as people may not be aware, we do property management as a team. We have a full-time property manager. We manage about 80 to 90 homes at any given time. And when our investor clients call us and they're starting to look for property and they ask, condo, single family home. I know what I always say to them. What kind of conversations are you having with some of these people?
It will depend again on what they're looking for and what they need. I personally think, and the research shows, that single family residences will rent better long term than a condo will, especially with potential risk involved with the condo complex saying, hey, our ratio is off. You cannot rent this unit anymore and you potentially might have to sell it. So there is risk and reward to both. And most of the time after having that kind of conversation, it usually ends up being price, where can I find a condo that I can afford, or if I can squeeze out enough money to get a single family residence. A lot of the time people prefer to rent those out.
Most of the high HOA fees for a single family home would typically be people living in a 55 and over community that are not worried about that. So if you're an investor looking for more of your, what I call traditional rental type house, where I say not super upgraded, not super big yards, not super landscape, so you're trying to keep that maintenance cost of those things down, typically the HOA fees in those are not overly expensive. Or even if you're in a $200,000 condo, it's pretty rare you're going to see an HOA fee now under $200 a month. And if they are, then the red flag kind of goes up, and the questions and concerns are, is there going to be some assessment down the road as far as that goes? So if you're someone who's thinking about trying to decide between a condo, a single family home, like we always tell you, it's very specific to your situation. So reach out to us, ask whatever questions you have. And again, we can find these in all kinds of different price points. So just ask the questions and know there are lots of differences between the two. If you're someone who's specifically looking for a condo in the downtown area, check out this video we did right here that tells you about a lot of things you need to know about downtown Reno.